NorCal. 209 King of Comedy. It's Rick without the K. James presents, in my opinion, podcast. We're back with another episode. We got Natasha, and I asked Rudy to sit in, even though we're going to go over medical shit.
Yes, sir.
Just because I want someone who's outside of the norm. I guess my norm.
People don't realize
norm.
I'm a doctor. I am a doctor.
Well, in Mexico, right?
Yeah,
I
in
tell
Mexico,
people
in
that.
Tijuana. I got my degree in Tijuana.
So I'm having you on here so you can kind of just mediate us and then listen and chime in. You know what I mean?
That's what I do.
I believe a lot of the public. I grew up with my dad being a nurse, so
I didn't know that.
My dad's an RN. He's been an RN forever. He was an LVN before that. Went back to school and then joined the service. And he was already in the service. And then when he got his RN, he switched over branches, became a warrant officer, became an officer. That's how I ended up out here in Alameda. We were stationed out here in the 90s before they did all the base closures. So I always saw my dad had a job. So I was like, cool.
That's good.
And then as I got older and other shit happened, I was like, I tell people that's how I also got into stand-up. It's also about making people laugh, forgetting fucking your problems.
Your dad was a comedian too?
No.
Oh.
But
Everybody's dad was kind of funny, right?
But that's just part of me, is I always want to help someone. But that's also why I fucking hate nursing now, because I believe that it's all about profits. It's all about and I don't know how long you've been in the medical field, but we're gonna ask you where you got your start, how you got your start. I always ask people that, especially in the medical field, because it's awkward to me if you get in the medical field and you don't have any family in the medical field, where it's like, because I think for my dad, especially being Latin, one, we'll talk about a topic that goes on off of that, and then two, being male, especially me being an older guy. I'm probably 10, 15 years older than you, right? So
a little more than that, dog. Come on, let's be real, man. He looks great for 62.
This is Botox, baby. But it's very shunned upon, especially in the Latin community, when you tell people you're a male nurse.
I'm Filipino, so I have lots of Filipino nurses in my
True
family.
that.
Yeah, where I tell people, if you really want to be appreciated as a male nurse, you just date a Filipina. So I have a Filipina girlfriend, but
It's not false.
her family thinks I'm something great. My family is like, when are you gonna get a real job? Huh? When are you gonna go lay concrete or some shit? Like.
Get your hands dirty for once.
So, Natasha, how did you get into becoming a doctor?
Yeah.
And why?
Lots of school, lots of years of studying. The why is because it's one of those generic reasons. My grandpa was sick when I was growing up. We were in the hospital all the time. I saw how, the doctors really connected with my family and changed their lives by like helping them understand the prognosis. He had cancer. But then I realized as I was like traveling, so I went to Kenya. I went to Kenya for 2 years after undergrad.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know if I wanted to be a doctor or if I wanted to be one of those like big wig health policy, like CDC. We can talk about the CDC later. or humanitarian people. And that's where I saw a lot of like fucked up shit. I saw a lot of corruption. I saw a lot of bribery and a lot of like white heroism. You know what I mean? Like white people coming in from the United States or Europe, going into African countries like Kenya and just thinking that they're like the Mother Teresas or like the Virgin Marys of the place and just kind of sucking their own dicks because they're giving money to all these people, but not really helping them in the long run. So I was like, I don't want to do this big scale stuff. I want to connect with someone on a one-on-one basis, and I want to help them in their individual lives. So I went into the medical field.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now there is a saying, right, where I know I'm going to get it wrong, but there's a separation between being a doctor and being a nurse, right? Like if you really want to care for someone, you become a nurse, and if you want to treat them, then you become a doctor or something like that, right? Like
I can see it. I can see why. Yeah.
So Well, why can you see why? Is my question.
Nurses are there. Nurses are like the true frontliners. They're in the rooms way more often than doctors are. You know, because doctors have like their whole panel of patients to take care of. I'm talking like in the hospital, you know?
In the hospital setting.
Doctors have all their patients to take care of. They have all their documentation to do, all the thinking behind the diagnosing and the medicating, etc. But nurses are there Q4 hours or whatever, Q2 hours, every 4 or 2 hours, checking in on the patients. And they're the ones making like the tighter connections with the patients if they want to.
Do you I can't say miss it, because if you've never had it, but do you wish?
Yeah, I was never a nurse.
Do you wish that was part of your job a little bit more?
I try to make it part of my job. So like I have the luxury. I'm still a resident doctor.
Okay.
So I'm not an attending doctor. I'm not like making the 6 figures. I'm making less than minimum wage per hour for the hours that I work. Right. But I have the luxury of being a resident doctor that the buck doesn't stop at me. Like if I fuck up on a thought process and medical decision making, because I'm still technically a trainee, like I have my MD, but I'm technically a trainee under all of these people's licenses, under my attending's licenses, like I can make mistakes and learn and grow and spend more time with patients.
How can you just prolong that process? That sounds like where you want to be besides the money.
I make less than minimum wage per
besides
hour.
The money, right. When you can put the blame on somebody else.
I don't want to be working an 80-hour week all my life.
Right. So as a doctor, you're trying to get to a point where it's like you can make more money and do less work, or what's the goal?
I'm trying to get to a point where the thinking and the time that I put into thinking about patients and the care that I put into being at patients' bedside, I get paid for. It's valued. As a resident, you're kind of subhuman. You're kind of scum. It's not just where I practice, it's everywhere. Lots of hours. You are the frontliner, the first kind of doctor that goes into the room. Things can get really messed up as a resident. But, I mean, you got to go through it before you become a big wig doctor.
You got to earn your stripes. Earn your stripes.
Definitely. And I think this is the first podcast that I'll actually state this. And I wanted it so it can set a precedence for where we're going to go in the podcast is the fact that I say I'm a nurse. Yeah. But I'm an LVN, right? And I say that.
What is an LVN?
An LVN is a licensed vocational nurse. But we get shit because we're not a registered nurse.
So it's like a wish nurse. Like a nurse you get on wish.
So there's CNA, there's LVN, and there's RN, right?
Right.
But
and then when you tell, and then
and then nurse practitioners, and what I'm saying for that part, because once you tell someone you're an LVN, they look at you like, oh, so when are you going to go back and finish school, or when are you gonna, or they tell you shit. Where I'm like, I hate having that conversation because I've done all my prereqs. I've actually been in an RN program. I had to stop, and I had to choose between my kids and my divorce, or finishing RN school. And now, if I would have known that I wasn't going to get my fucking kids anyways, I would have finished RN school, right?
Right.
R.I.P. Shit.
But, I've got 245 more days until my youngest turns 18, and I'm good. So
not like he's counting down or anything.
He's not like checking it off on the wall.
I looked at him this morning, and 245, son.
You just walk by his room and be like, 243, bitch.
So I say that because, like I said, and then it's really 2 semesters, and it's more bedside teaching that I haven't done. It's 2 more semesters in a hospital, but all the other teaching, the book work, I've already done and completed.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I get tired of having that conversation, especially working with RNs too, and it's been a different society because of COVID, right? So now they weren't utilizing us as real nurses, but COVID hits, and now we can work you guys a little bit more, and we can get you in the hospital, and we can do this and we can do that. Because the company that I work for, I don't even like saying its name.
You figure it out.
Yeah. It's funny that COVID hit, and then it's like, hey, we need more hands. We need more people. We need more staff. We need more this, especially last year. This year it's kind of calmed down a little bit.
Yeah.
It was probably, depending upon where you live also, right?
But if you got into healthcare though, like is that really such a bad thing that they need like all hands on deck, so to speak?
No. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. If I'm coming off that way, I apologize. But for me, it's like, dude, I've had this knowledge because again, I started my career in the military, so my scope was different. That's where I got my training. You know what I mean? If a soldier was hurt, you just fucking patch the soldier up and you keep going. You didn't, hey, your scope only states that you could do this and you can only do that. And, they didn't give a fuck.
You really got shit on as an LVN, I can tell. I feel the bitterness.
The trauma. The trauma's in your eyes, bro. We can see it.
I think the bitterness is knowing that I should have just finished my RN. But even to this day, we were talking about it last night where I was like, dude, there's a lot of programs because of COVID that are like, as long as you finish your prereqs, normally they put a cap on it, Rudy.
Yeah.
Isn't like in 5 years, if you don't finish, then you got to retake all your prereqs again.
So you can't just go back. Yeah. You can't just waltz back.
But now he can, is what he's saying, right?
Now, because of COVID, now they're like, hey, there's no more cap.
Wow.
Where I'm like, anatomy hasn't changed in fucking 10 years.
Yeah,
we still have 206 bones, motherfucker. Like, why do I have to take this class again? And the only reason you have to take the class, or when you move, because I started my RN shit on the East Coast. So when you move to the West Coast, then you got to do different prereqs. So mind you, that's why I get frustrated, because I'm like, dude, I have enough credits that I should have a fucking
master's. It's not too late.
I should have a master's degree.
In this whole thing, what I mean? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not too late.
So you can. No, and that's what I'm saying. As soon as my kids are out of the picture.
245 days.
Yeah, 46.
44. We're counting.
But I wanted to throw it out there because I could tell you being a resident doctor right now, you might get that same where you're like, dude, I've done all the same book work as you have as a doctor. The only difference maybe.
I will say the experience counts though. You can do the book work, you can have the knowledge, but like seeing the patient and just like getting that idea from your gut, because you've seen so many different patients, the experience matters.
Do you do a lot of hands-on stuff too? Because I feel like a lot of doctors don't.
I'm a pediatrician. What are you talking about?
That's gonna be
a little different. But and again, anything that I say, don't take it a certain way. But I've maybe out of my whole career, I've seen, and more so in the military, but outside of the military, maybe one doctor start an IV. You know what I mean? Where you got to understand, Rudy, to start an IV on you or me, pretty simple.
Right.
An obese person, maybe a little bit harder. An older person, rolling veins, shit like that, you got to deal with that shit. A kid, I tell people like Greg Williams is a neonate nurse, and I'm like, dude, I commend you. Like the way you can find a vein on a fucking baby, bro.
Yeah.
Like that's some artwork.
So is there? Bro. So let me, because I feel like I'm new to this world, right? But
welcome.
Yeah, right. I'm like, so is there like some disdain between the nurses and the doctors because of what it sounds like? It sounds like the nurses don't get appreciated for what they actually do, which is a lot of the dirty work. So what is it that the doctors bring to the table that they don't get appreciated for? I mean, because it's got to be both ways though. There's got to be something on their end that they bring to the table.
I think. You're talking to an older nurse. Like I said, I've been in this career field since 99. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, probably you were born in 94 or some shit, right?
92. So, thank you very much.
Get it right.
So, I think I appreciate a doctor that takes the extra step now.
Okay.
When you're the doctor, and I get it. You've got caseloads, especially with the company that I work for. They're expected to see 15, 20 patients an hour or whatever. So you don't take the time and you don't get the history. I think a lot of doctors forget that, well, where's the patient coming from? Where as a nurse, we're trying to gather all that information. And all you do as a nurse is pretty much gather the information and give it to the doctor and let them know how the patient's going, because that's part of the process, right? Like, hey, the patient started here. This is where he came in. This is where he's at now. This is where we hope to get him, blah, blah, blah. And then they just give us the diagnosis and let us know this is what you should be treating for. You know what I mean? Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true.
Do patients ever feel like they can trust the nurse more than the doctor?
I think 100%.
Really?
100%. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do doctors get jealous or upset by that, or like how does that relationship work?
This is where I'm going to just blame the health system, because I think it is to blame. Like there is so much that you have to do as an MD or a DO. There are DO doctors now. More and more in these hospitals, and you have so much stuff to do. You have paperwork to do. You have to worry about your ass being sued if you don't do the paperwork right. It takes away. if I could just sit at a patient's bedside or like talk to a patient's parents because I'm a pediatrician all day long, I would.
So you're dealing with a lot of logistics. You're dealing with a lot of
logistic stuff. Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, you actually kind of have to defend. I mean, you have to do all the paperwork and stuff to defend any slip-ups that might occur when you're actually treating the patient.
Basically.
And so I can see how that could be frustrating because it's pulling. Not only is it taking your energy away from the patient, but it's like, this is not what I signed up for. Like I didn't sign up
to sit down at a computer
for
and hours
do paperwork.
a day. Yeah, I signed up to like help people and talk to people.
Right. There's nobody. I mean, doesn't somebody exist in that world that can take care of all the paperwork? I mean, I understand
they should, but I will tell you this since you brought it up. Again, being in this shit over 20 years, on the nursing side too, we've seen paperwork just increase. That's our biggest gripe. Is like, dude, we're sitting down charting so much that we're literally taking 15 minutes every 2-4 hours to see the patient because you've got us making sure. Well, if you didn't chart it, you didn't do it.
Right.
You know that's right. That's the big saying around the hospital.
Especially where you work, huh?
So yeah. So it's always about where you're like, dude. And then I can see on the doctor's side, and again, nurses don't get mad at me, right? Is I work with a lot of nurses. Not gonna give any names, but they work outside of their scope of practice.
You know who you are, bitch.
Yeah,
you know who you are.
And honestly, I want to say it's more so. Again, this is me being sexist, right? This is usually a female nurse that gets high and mighty and feels like she could do whatever she wants and then get a doctor's order. But the moment I walk into being that nurse, I'm by the book.
Oh, you got to play by the book. It's not just you. You're messing with people's lives.
Right.
And not even that, I tell people. It's the fact that I know I'm brown and I'm a male and you're going to come after me. Yeah. I've seen it. Yeah. Like if I didn't have those 2 strikes against me, I wouldn't be worried about the third. So I make sure I play it by the fucking book.
But in all fairness, though, I mean, most nurses are women. Statistically speaking, so it's like
that's true.
So it's like you're gonna. I mean, when you said like it's usually a female nurse who gets all high and mighty. Well, it's usually just a female nurse in general. I mean, so the chances of them getting up to a point where they're gonna be the boss and they're gonna act shitty are very high because most nurses they're more female nurses. You know, because I just don't want to lay the blame on them because they're female.
Excuse me. I do want to say this. Nice burp into the mic, right? Nice. Is the reason I say that is because I'm not normally as an LVN too. You got to realize we're not utilized in the hospital as much, right? I normally work in corrections and behavioral health, where there's a lot more male nurses, and I prefer that because there's a lot more male nurses because we know we're coming in at the workforce, and maybe I want to say when I started it was less than maybe 5%.
Because for once in your life, you're disadvantaged to be a male.
See, I knew we was gonna go there.
It was gonna come out. It was gonna come out.
For once.
Once, yeah, Jesus. Yeah.
What about the time that he had to fight for custody for his kids? Because it seems to be he's literally counting the days.
I'm counting the days.
Like, are you guys counting? Do you have anything as a female that you're counting the days to end? He's literally counting the days.
So, where was I at?
We're talking about how dope it is to be a dude.
Oh no. You're so stupid.
And don't get it twisted. It is dope. Like, I wouldn't trade this shit in for anything.
No, I would. I would rather be a female.
No.
But that's a different.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a different episode.
No.
You are crazy. You gotta go to a psych hospital next.
4 or 5 days a month. Jesus Christ.
Sitting down forever?
Get free dinners and lunches and.
Hell no.
My God.
Only if you're good looking, though. Only if you're good looking.
I've been scared to cross the street in Hayward in broad daylight. Someone calls from the window saying, "Hey, you're the doctor, right?"
Yeah, but that's a personal thing, though. You know what I mean? Like, I know a lot of fucking grimy bitches that'll be like, "I walk through East Oakland like a loose pit bull."
So, yeah. So I do want to put it out there because people wouldn't know that. Like, people wouldn't know that there's more male nurses in behavioral health or corrections, which it just seems like there would be, right? You know what I mean? Because you're dealing with crazy people and you're dealing with fucking inmates and shit like that. So that's a majority of the 20 plus years that I've been doing this. Most of it has been corrections and behavioral health.
Boy, Charlie Murphy, my main man, Rick James. That's the one you think, the comedian Rick James. Get up.
I can't hear my neighbor crying, I can't breathe.
Please hit the subscribe button down low so you can see all new clips, all new episodes coming to you.